Hey, Jack, I want to drill down on the assumptions versus validation concept of proving. And I know that with startups and a smaller sample set, you are closer to your validation simply by virtue of a smaller sample size and the
Sure.
percentage there. The bigger you get, the more requirement there is for a larger sample size to validate. Is there a framework by which you help people to scrub between their assumptions, their biases, and then actually validated proof? Because that's really important at this phase, it sounds. So, what's the framework that you give to people to, go between assumptions and validations?
Absolutely. So, I think I mentioned I actually have two separate businesses. I have a my own business, Nolan Outcomes, which is fractional sales leadership for a very early stage startup. So let's say pre-seed through Series A is what I like to focus on. Then with two other very, very smart business partners, we have another organization we call Startup IQ. That's what we last week I mentioned in New York. It was the Startup IQ Empire State Tour. So between the three of us, I'm very, very highly focused on the sales and go-to-market aspects. My good friend Bogdan, who works with us, has a deep background in um, design, in user UI, user experience, etc. And he really brings a lot of framework to the table when we start talking about moving from assumptions to real validation.
Mhm.
The first thing you have to do is understand what's the right questions to ask, right? Without quote unquote leading the witness, right? You taint your results if you lead if you anything other than hey, and I'm really oversimplifying. Anything other than hey, how does your day work? How does your week work? And then just listening, collecting, listening. Anything beyond that, you start to taint the witness, if you will. You start to you you might get close to the validation, but it may not be perfect enough. And if it isn't perfect, it won't scale. Certainly won't to the 30 to 100 million that we're talking about. So the biggest thing is to not fall in love with the assumption, and that's really a tough wall for a lot of early stage founders to go get over. You have an idea in your head, you're absolutely positive that it's a solution that the either the whole world or a segment of the world is waiting for. And unfortunately, you're also being told by the most of your support system, the people around you, hey, that's a great idea. Well, until you start validating that and it could be as simple as this. This came up with a client a couple of weeks ago. Client has a quote unquote waiting list of 3,000 people interested in this application when it becomes available, right? They don't have the funding yet to create the application. So how do you quote unquote test whether or not this is actually something somebody wants, right? So here's an easy experiment. You have 3,000, take 50 of them and do a crowdsourcing offer. It could be something as simple as, hey, for $200 in this crowdsourcing, you'll get unlimited lifetime subscription to the application when it comes out. Take another 50 and say, hey, for $100, you can have a lifetime subscription. Take another 50. Hey, for $50. I think you see where I'm going. It doesn't tell us everything, but it tells us what the propensity is for people to actually pay for what they perceive as the solution you're going to provide. It gives us to your some early data, which of course that's the biggest issue about validation is data, as you guys well know. But it begins to give you some data that tells you, okay, is this a little pebble in my shoe, or
Mhm.
is this a piece of broken glass in my shoe? If somebody's willing to pay $200 on a wing and a prayer, that tells you, hey, there may be something here. If we boil down and find out after testing 3,000 people that more than half of them are not willing to pay anything and or let's say $10 for this, then you know it's a pebble and not a piece of broken glass. Again, very simplistic, but these are the kind of tests you have to run to begin to understand whether or not you're even before you even get to product market fit. Do you have have you identified a problem worth solving for money? And again, that's a very simplified way of putting it, but it's so key to get past the slides and past the conversations and into something you can test and validate the data against. Especially, I mean, if you're going to go after funding at some point, those proof points will be your only cachet.